1. My friend and I went into J.C. Penney's, store for clothes, kitchen items, jewelry, etc., for her to exchange a package of onesies for her infant daughter. We both had our toddler sons sitting facing each other in a tandem stroller. After being in the store for a few minutes, they both started tugging back and forth on the package of onesies, the correct size my friend needed to exchange the originals for. I grabbed the package from them and threw it into the compartment under the stroller, ending the game of tug-of-war. Friend did a little more shopping, boys did some more fighting and whining. She exchanged the onesies, and cashed out the rest of her items. We left the store, got lunch in the food court, let the babies play in the play space, and grabbed coffee, ready to head out. As we received our coffees, a security officer approaches me and asks me what I stole. Completely dumbfounded, I tell him I didn't steal anything. He tells me he has me on video stealing. And if I confess, he'll go easy. I tell him he's wrong. He can check my purse, as I have nothing. He immediately pulls a package of onesies from the bottom of the stroller, amidst our toddler's screaming she didn't realize I put them down there, so she grabbed another package. I didn't pay attention because she bought other things, and I was trying to keep the boys from poking each other in the eyes. Toddlers can be assholes. I'd tell SG it wasn't intentional and explain how boys were grabbing on it, to which led to my throwing it to the bottom of the stroller. He goes on a rant about how he's heard every excuse in the book, and I'm just making it worse for myself. So I bring up the timeline and ask, well, if I intended to steal, for an infant that isn't mine by the way, why would I stay for lunch, let the kids play, and calmly sit down to have coffee? My friend also confirms that she has the infant daughter, and yes, the boys were annoying each other during our shopping trip. This apparently pissed SG off because he went into full commando mode, pulling me by the arm back to J.C. Penney's and into the security room. We get inside, and I urge him to watch the security tape again, figuring he'll see the babies fussing and understand the confusion. He leaves me in the room for 45 minutes, to which I figure he had to have seen the babies fussing and fighting. Nope. He comes back in and calls me a liar. He says it clearly showed me shoplifting, and he's going to call the cops. I'm frustrated, but agree to the cops being called, because I figure they'll see the tapes and understand the mistake. He didn't like this either. He tells me that once the cops get involved that he is required to call Child Protective Services, which will immediately open a case, and that they will take my son in custody until I have a court date. Keep in mind I'm 23 at the time, and I've never been in a situation like this before, so I believed his lying ass. I break down crying, telling the guy that I'm being honest. I'm not a thief. I have a clean record. Why would I steal clothes for a child that isn't mine, etc.? He was cold. Told me the most innocent-looking people are the ones who steal. He's heard every excuse and lie you can think of, and I have 3 minutes to confess before he calls the cops and has my son taken away from me. I still insisted my innocence, because I was, and begged for a manager. Bear in mind, my friend was outside the whole time with my son in hers, unbothered other than worrying about me. Dickhead security guard leaves and comes back 10 minutes later, no manager, but with a paper, which is basically a generic written confession saying I shoplifted in the amount of $6.99, literally under $10, and that I agree to pay restocking fees, loss and prevention fees, and to not enter the store for 3 years. Now I'm hysterically crying, pleading with him that I did nothing wrong. I'm not a shoplifter. The only thing I did was exercise poor judgment by not specifying to my friend that the onesies were on the bottom. He tells me he has no sympathy for thieves and liars, and already called the cops, and they are on their way to arrest me and take my son unless I sign the paper. So I quickly sign the form, to which he releases me. I tell my friend she drove to hightail it out of the mall ASAP. After telling the story to her in the car, and other people later, I found out that it was all bullshit. The security guard lied and manipulated me, and should have lost his job for that. But he was so far in my head that I didn't want to revisit the situation even for a second. It's been over a decade since this happened, and I still get anxiety just thinking about it. So, rookie mall security guard, let's not meet again. Ever. 2. Just at the beginning of summer in December 2016 here in Australia, I landed a job at a classy bar in the city I live in. I was 18 and never had a job, so I was pretty psyched when I got it. Reflecting back when I first started looking for a job at 15, applying at McDonald's, Hungry Jack's, and KFC, I didn't really picture myself as a person who'd work within the fast food industry, like most of my classmates. Although there is nothing wrong with working at places like that, I wanted the socialization and a little less stress. I wanted to be working somewhere like a bar or a cafe or something like that. So you can imagine my excitement when Luke, my to-be boss at the time, gave me my uniform at the end of my 10-hour trial shift. He had also let me know that if anyone was to fuck around with me, that he'd have my back. I nodded and thanked him for the job. A month later, I'm still so psyched that I was working at this place. The people were welcoming and kind. I made all kinds of friends from all over the world, and networked with some of the biggest beer brewers, winemakers, and bartenders in Australia during my training sessions. On this particular day, I was starting pretty early. I arrived at 4 p.m. to start at 5 p.m. Sounds late, but at the bar that's a fairly early evening for us, and headed upstairs after having a smoke before my shift. I started picking up glasses and interacted with the regulars. Just your normal, "How's your day been, mate?" kind of thing. I saw this big group of guys, around 8 to 10 of them, having a laugh, and I smiled at them, letting them know that I was going to collect their empty glasses. I walked back to the bar and dropped off the glasses I had in hand, grabbed the table cleaner and started wiping down the tables that were once occupied. I got to the table next to the big group of guys and they quietened down from their chitter-chatter. "Hey, how's your day going so far?" one of the men said to me. He had brown hair and was wearing a grey shirt and some black ripped jeans. "Pretty all right. Just started, so there's nothing major," I replied. "So, I just want to let you know, my mate," he points to his friend, red-haired and wearing a Hawaiian shirt, "really likes you." I gave out a nervous laugh and nodded. "Oh, okay, thanks." His friend looks at me and smiles. I found out his name was Eli. Eli's friend scooted over so he could start talking to me. Eli was tall and really buff, probably around 6'3". I'm 4'11". He basically towered over me. I was really intimidated. He leaned down and read my name tag. "So, Soph, what time are you finishing up?" Intimidated by this guy and too scared to give him a straight answer, I said, "Like 5 a.m. My work closed at 3:30 a.m. He continued with more small talk that I couldn't get out of, and I finally let him know that I needed to go back and clear some more tables. He winked at me every time I walked past. My coworker and I laughed about it, thinking that they'd leave at around 10 p.m. or earlier, as they'd been there since the bar opened, which was at 12 p.m. I continued on with my work, and the place soon was beginning to get busier. I didn't see Eli or his group for a while. I came back from my break, and the dance floor was filled with so many people that the floor felt like it was going to concave. I pushed myself through the crowd and grabbed glasses from window sills and cornered tables. I felt someone touch my ass. Like not a poke or anything, like a grab. I let it off thinking it was an accident. I mean, there were so many people, it must have been. About 10 minutes later, someone had broken glass on the dance floor. I hurried off, got the dustpan, and began cleaning it. I suddenly felt a swat on my ass. I turned around and saw Eli and his mates looking at me with drunk and slow eyes. I looked at him with disbelief. Even then, I thought to myself, should I tell someone? I don't want to get anyone in trouble, and I certainly don't want any trouble. I was scared and didn't speak to anyone about it. He went back to winking at me and waving every time I went to collect a glass. I shrugged it off. He'll leave soon, I thought to myself. At 3 a.m., we call last drinks, and the last few tracks get played. We clean up and close the bar. My co-workers have after-work drinks whilst I head off to catch my train, seeing as I live about an hour and a bit away. I close the door behind me after telling everyone to have a good night and pop in my earphones. I'm scrolling through my train playlist when I hear someone call my name. It was Eli and his group of friends. I tried to ignore them, but they kept calling my name and coming towards me. This pedestrian light could not turn green fast enough. They caught up to me and started bugging me. "Soph, Come back to our place. We live just around the corner. I shook my head. We waited for you. They tried to corner me. No thanks, mate. Excuse me. Come on, babe. He tried to grab my arm and I just ran back to my venue, calling my coworker to come and open the door. The fucking back door code wasn't clearing. Finally, she came out and asked if I was okay. I was hyperventilating. I was panicking. I couldn't go home whilst they were still out there. While they were out the back, we could hear them laughing and calling my name. My boss called the police and they arrived fairly quick, but as quick as they came, Eli and his friends also disappeared in that time. I have now been working at the same place for 3 years, and I tell this story to the new kids, not to scare them, but to let them know that they should communicate with their team for the safety of the staff members and our patrons. So to the guy who came to my workplace and waited for me after my shift, let's not meet again. 3. It was the start of my junior year of high school. I was going outside with my close friend Monique to eat lunch. Our high school's cafeteria was inside, but there were several tables outside to sit in as well. All of a sudden, this girl comes up to me out of nowhere and says hello. I recognize her immediately. This was a girl I knew back in 8th grade. Her name was Margot. She was a shy girl who didn't really have any friends. She asked if she can sit with us, and me, being the nice person I am, said yes, since it was just the two of us. Both Monique and I eventually became good friends with Margot, especially me, since we knew each other before. She was a freshman, but it still seemed like she didn't have any friends at this school other than us. I didn't really judge, though, we've all been there. At some point, she asks me for my Snapchat, then my Tumblr, then my Instagram, then my spam account on Instagram, then my Twitter, and eventually my private account on Twitter. This, however, doesn't seem that unusual to me. I thought that perhaps she wanted to keep up with me and all of my social media. It was ironic she never asked for my phone number. I usually vent and talk about anything I want on my private Twitter account. However, I don't have much to say about how Margot acted during our friendship, since she was following my account. Overall, she always seemed to be obsessed with me. She didn't seem to have very good social cues. It eventually reached a point where it was just straight up creepy. I had developed a crush on a senior in February of my junior year. His name was Devin. Usually, whenever I like someone, I constantly talk about them to my friends, but I never initiate anything on my part. Obviously, I would ramble about Devin to Margot, because I wanted to initiate something before he graduated, especially since we were in the same choir program, and we had lots of mutual friends. Some people in our choir, including Devin and I and Monique, went on a trip to New York to perform at Carnegie Hall in March. He initiated some interactions while we were in New York, and I DM'd Margot on Twitter about what happened. She then gives us a ship name and starts fangirling about said ship name. I was immediately turned off. I don't have a problem with fictional characters or celebrities being shipped, as long as it's not going overboard. But the fact she made a ship name for two real, regular people was weird to me. Yeah, I had a crush on him. Yeah, I thought he was cute. But I did not want to be shipped with him like that. Imagine being Devin and hearing about some random stranger shipping you with someone you barely know. Creepy. Monique also thought that was creepy and that she was a weird girl. I agreed, but I didn't really take any action afterwards. One day after the trip, Margot sees him after our lunch is over. She tells me she's going to see which direction he heads off in. Me, being slightly alarmed and turned off at her idea, but was also being late for class, just said, okay. I just assumed she would watch to see which hallway he enters, since Margot also had classes to attend that were far away. She DMs me later on that day, however, telling me that Devin's 5th period class is anatomy. I'm utterly freaked out. Why would she follow him, essentially stalk him all the way to the other side of the school? Does she have no boundaries? I tell her that she shouldn't have followed him like that, and then we both move on. I was tired of having her in my life. Monique was tired as well. It wasn't worth me talking to Margot about how obsessive she was, since she wouldn't listen. Monique and I decided to eat with the theater kids instead, since Monique was going to drama this year. It was one of the best decisions of my life. I made lots of new friends, and I wish I did this earlier in the year. I soft-blocked, then unblocked Margot from all of my social media. I don't really like blocking people, it usually offends the other person, and I try not to create unnecessary conflict. She tried messaging me again on multiple occasions on Tumblr, so I blocked her on there, because I was just annoyed at her messaging me. She wasn't even asking why I dropped her, just her being obsessive and creepy. I later on noticed that she had blocked me on Twitter, and I thought it would end there. However, it only gets worse from here. I eventually developed feelings for a guy I was following on Twitter, let's call him Jay. But I was also simultaneously moving on from Devon. There were also people on Twitter who I discovered from doing Twitter polls who had a crush on me. For context, there's a popular Q&A website called Curious Cat, where people can anonymously ask questions and send messages to you. This can be a bad thing in terms of hate comments, but you can block the anonymous asks and also turn off the option for anonymous questions. For more context, this Twitter account wasn't a personal account. It was an account dedicated to a certain interest of mine, so people I know in real life would never recognize me other than my first name if they ever see my account. People loved asking me on Curious Cat about who my crush was, Jay, or what Devon was like. I would go into details about my interactions with Devon without mentioning anything that can expose me or him. At some point, I answered several questions about my old feelings for him. Keep in mind that everyone is anonymous, so this could be from anyone, but I just assumed it was from people following me on Twitter. One day, I woke up to check my inbox. I received one ask. It made my heart drop. It wasn't a question. It mentioned Devon's first and last name, the university he attended, and the year he was going to graduate from that school. I was creeped out. I always answered people's questions, even if they were unusual or rude, but I just couldn't bring myself to answer this question. Who sent this to me? Was it possible that Devon somehow found my Twitter account? And he looked through my Curious Cat replies and connected the dots? I brought this up with Emma, my online best friend at the time, and I was feeling anxious. But we both decided it was a good idea to never bring it up to anyone and act like it never happened. Now, I never thought that Margot could have possibly sent me this ask. It was the middle of summer before my senior year, so there was no reason for her to continue stalking me online. There were a few other weird incidents, like the time someone guessed my crush, Jay, correctly on Curious Cat, but I don't think it was Margot, since I met him after dropping her. There was also a long period of time where I would occasionally get anonymous love poems in my inbox, even after I eventually moved Twitter accounts in September and made a new Curious Cat account. There were no leads on who sent in those love poems. It's January of my senior year of high school. Nothing unusual has been occurring on social media. I was more focused on college applications and my grades anyways, but one day, I checked my Curious Cat account, and I noticed I got a really cute message. If I could find you now, things would get better. We could leave this town and run forever. I know somewhere, somehow, we'll be together. Let your waves crash down on me and take me away. Me thinking that this is a Twitter mutual, I felt an awe and I felt loved. I started getting questions on Curious Cat that would relate to school. Best AP classes, advanced placement. Best DE classes, dual enrollment. What's AP psychology like? I love helping people out with school, so I thought it was normal until I got another question. What is an AICE exam like? Advanced International Certificate of Education. AICE is a program that is specifically in high schools in Florida, the state I live in. Usually no one knows what AICE is unless they live in Florida. And none of my Twitter mutuals lived in Florida. It was odd, but I didn't think much of it. It was the day after Valentine's Day. I started getting more asks on Curious Cat from some sort of secret admirer. Do you have a boyfriend? Steps on how to be cute and awesome like you. I think I may be in love with you. I still think it's someone from Twitter, and I really appreciate my mutuals on Twitter, so I flirt with the anon. However, I should mention that I'm not really taking this seriously. as most people on Twitter wouldn't take it seriously. I was also developing feelings for a mutual friend at my school, so I wasn't particularly interested in anyone. The secret admirer still sends me more asks, however. Tell me your favorite things. I give them a list. I ask them what their favorite things are. My favorite thing is you. Later on, they ask me, can I sing for you? As a choir kid, I'm touched by this person also being a fan of singing. So I ask them what song they want to sing for me. They say, "O Holy Night," which is unexpected, but I'm not weirded out since I performed "O Holy Night" every year for Candlelight at Disney's Epcot. I ask them if they are a soprano, alto, tenor, or bass. Now, this is where I start learning more about who this secret admirer from Twitter is. They mention that they're a baritone, which makes me realize that this was a guy. He also mentions that he's working on applications for a community college in my city. I'm thinking, is this a coincidence? Or is this person not from Twitter? I wasn't sure how to feel. But since I assumed this person was also a senior in high school, working on college applications, I wasn't too alarmed since they would be my age. That's when I suddenly get a huge confession, and my sudden curiosity had become a major confusion and anxiety. To tell you the truth, we go to the same school. I've seen you around. I actually found you through this guy from my chemistry, John. I'd prefer to talk to you in person, but I felt that if I talked to you through here, it'd be easier to do it IRL. I'm kinda shy around girls I like. You'd probably take my breath away. Also, I'm a junior, unfortunately. Though I wish I could be a senior, but alas. That feeling when your Twitter mutual, who's your secret admirer, is actually some random guy from your school who stalked you through your social media, to the point where he just had to talk to you through it. The secret admirer sends me another ask explaining how he found me, which was honestly unsettling. Yeah, I don't think you're aware of me. Although I see you a lot sometimes when I walk out of my first period, which is in room 300. I found your Instagram through John's. Then I found your curious cat from your spam, which I found on your main. Does that make sense? Also, the name's Gus. I'll try to say hi or something after first if I'm not in a rush. To prob and stats. By the way, thanks for that advice. Sorry if this is a lot. Hope you have a good night, or whenever you read this. I'm pretty good friends with John. We were in choir together. I thought it was weird that Gus preferred talking to me in person, but also thought that talking to me via a semi-secret anonymous Q&A website was better. I thought it was incredibly creepy that he went through all of my social media, and that he was literally in love with me, when I didn't even know that he existed. Gus sent me a few more questions up until the last day of school before spring break in March. That might seem relieving, but when a random stranger recently confessed their love for you, admits that they see you a lot, and then they suddenly stop communicating, you start doubting that it's all over and that they actually moved on. How was your day? Is senioritis real? Do any of your IRLs know about your Twitter? If not, what would you do if someone found it? One more day. In the one more day ask, I asked Gus lots of questions since I needed an explanation for this whole situation, but he just disappeared. I was going to obviously reject him since I had feelings for someone else, and I wouldn't want to date someone younger than me since I felt mature for my age. I knew I was going off to college, and I didn't want to date anyone who would still be in high school by then. I think I figured out who Gus really is, though I'm not too sure. When I try to find Gus in John's Instagram followings and followers, I only find this band kid. I couldn't tell if it was the same person. Creepy Gus was a theater and choir kid, not a band kid. Band kid also shared mutual friends with me, so it didn't make sense for Creepy Gus to be him. Band kid Gus just seemed like a relatively normal kid. When I checked my yearbook, however, I find another Gus. Unfortunately, I see this specific guy often in the school hallways, and I have seen him leave room 300 after first period ends, so it's most likely him. I wish it could end there, but it's April of my senior year, and this is when I start to connect all the dots. There was a private Instagram account that goes by user @berrycult, who followed my main and spam account. It was an unusual username, but I didn't question it. I assumed it was a mutual friend. They followed me while I was friends with Margot, however. There were multiple occasions where this user would like my posts and then unlike them, but I didn't question it. I was curious, so I recently made an account with a random username to follow this user. They never accepted nor rejected my request. However, after I requested to follow them, I noticed they changed their username to @deletedAccount 3738372 and became inactive. I felt iffy since @deletedAccount 3738372 was only following 7 accounts, and 2 of those accounts were mine. I don't even know this person. I searched up @berrycult, and I saw it was still taken, so I assumed the owner saved their username. However, I noticed another account called @berrycults with a Z. I believe this is the same person because they had a cryptic profile picture and a cryptic Instagram bio. I never loved you anyway. Remember that I used to have my Curious Cat account linked on my spam? And my spam account was linked to my main Instagram account, which is probably the reason why any of these things even occurred in the first place. Now this is where my discoveries became more extreme. I stalked Margot's Twitter account using another Twitter account. I'm aware it's ironic and wrong, but I wouldn't have connected the dots if I didn't do so. And I noticed 2 accounts in particular following Margot. One account's username was @berry4cult, which is eerily similar to the username berrycult on Instagram. Another account belonged to a girl named Anna. Remember this name, because I believe that Anna is my stalker. I couldn't help but notice that Anna's name and Twitter profile looked familiar. Her profile picture is a girl with brown hair smiling and wearing a blue hoodie. I realized that I had once had a random ask on Curious Cat, and since the anonymous option was off, it was from a user called Pieces of Sun, who said, "What's poppin'?" The Curious Cat account had the same exact profile picture as Anna's Twitter account. I also recalled Anna following my main account on Instagram a long time ago, but since Monique was following her, I didn't think anything of it. I couldn't find Anna anywhere in my yearbook, but according to her bio, she attended my high school. @deleteduser account 3738372 follows Anna's Instagram account. Anna also apparently follows a girl named Margot. I'm not sure if it's my ex's friend, specifically, but there's already too much proof that they're connected. The current account that saves the @berrycult username has 2 followers, and one of them, a girl named Lana, also follows Anna. I find Anna's other Instagram account, which had the same profile picture as a Curious Cat user Pieces of Sun and Anna on Twitter. The Instagram account even links Anna's Twitter. Now here's where things start getting even weirder. I found an account on Instagram that's following Anna. It's a girl named Nikki, who has the same profile picture as Anna on Instagram, not Twitter, which was a realistic drawing of 2 angels with wings. Nikki's Instagram bio intrigues me, because she apparently attends my high school and she's dating a guy named Gus. The same name as my secret admirer. Is my secret admirer the same guy as Nikki's boyfriend? I don't know, but it's creepy either way. I thought it would end there, but one of my friends from school, Lily, DMs me on Twitter. "I'm reading your timeline, and that picture of Anna isn't Anna, her name is Ella, and she is my friend's girlfriend's little sister." I think she stole her picture. Lily then shows me a screenshot of Ella's Instagram, where I see her icon. It was the same brown-haired girl in the blue hoodie smiling. I also see 2 other pictures on Ella's accounts that I recognize from Anna's previous Twitter accounts. Anna, a girl who I assumed was stalking me, never even existed. At first, I thought I was being delusional, that Anna was literally catfishing a poor freshman who was completely unaware of this. I felt so disgusted and anxious after realizing the true circumstances of this situation. I never figured out who Anna truly was. I think it was Margot, but I can't confirm. Either way, I constantly felt a burden on my shoulders whenever I saw Margot or Gus in my peripheral vision at school. I ended up soft-blocking @deletedaccount 3738372 from my Instagram accounts, as well as Anna's main account. I also told Monique to soft-block Anna's account as well. I deleted my Curious Cat and my Twitter. I moved quietly, so I still have both Twitter and Curious Cat, but I haven't received any unusual requests since then. I learned a lot about not being so open around people and having boundaries. Despite all that, my senior year was amazing, especially my second semester. I ended up committing to a top 10 public university in the US, so I'm in a much better place now. Also, I had a few weird situations with Margot during our friendship that I never brought up. And I never mentioned how she catfished one of my friends back in middle school and made her friends turn against her. I also have more evidence on Instagram of several more accounts that are related to Anna, Nikki, and more people who all connected back to, you guess it, Margot. I have a conspiracy theory that Margot used the real Gus without his knowledge and pretended to be him. That she is catfishing Ella as Anna. I also think Margot has several Instagram accounts and catfishes and impersonates several people. Gus, Anna, and especially Margot. Let's not meet. Hey everybody, Hellfreezer here, and thank you very much for listening to 3 True Scary Stories. Episode 441. I'm reasonably sure. And thank you very much to everybody who allowed me to use their stories in this video. Yes, it is. It's 441. I know what I'm doing. Well, I don't know if I mentioned I was having a bit of bother with my Sennheiser headphones, so I haven't been able to use them. They've essentially been sitting on a shelf for about a year. But, and rather stupidly, I should have just sent them back right away, but I didn't, hence rather stupidly. And I thought the warranty had run out. But I happened to check the other day and I realized it's a 2-year warranty, 24 months. So they're actually still well within it. So I'd contacted them, it was just a few days, it wasn't too long. They got back to me and they gave me a link and everything to fill out the form for the repair. And unfortunately the cost of shipping it back to them is on me. But I looked up on UPS, I think I'll use UPS because I've used them before. And at least in my experience, they're okay to deal with. Fairly efficient, and for the price for the package I'm shipping, not too bad. I think I'll have to check the details and everything again, but I think it's about £12, roughly. It's not a heavy package, it's a box with headphones in it. And so hopefully, this coming weekend, they're actually already packed away, but I'll need to get some paper to wrap them in, fill out the form and all that, and get the information to go on the label. Then I will have them shipped out as soon as I can. And would be lovely if they were done in time for Christmas. Thankfully, they're not, because they weren't working. I did get a pair of Bose headphones, which I absolutely love, but I love my Sennheisers as well, and I'd like to get them working too, because, you know, it's a lot of money to waste on something that you can't get use out of. And being Scottish, genetically, we hate to waste money. Although I will say, all in all, my experience with Sennheiser products hasn't been a good one. I got a pair years ago that they lasted for quite a while, I will say that for them. They held up for a while, but the sound quality wasn't that great. But I'd always heard great things about Sennheiser. So when I got these ones, I thought, okay, these were Momentum over-ear wireless. They look quite cool, and I got them. And sure enough, the sound quality was really good. I was very happy with it. Not like the top of the line they make in terms of sound quality, but the sound was very good. Good bass, good clarity, and had decent noise cancelling. Although, to be honest with you, between the Sennheiser and the Bose has much better noise cancelling on it. Plus, you can control the level if you want. Not that I do, the higher the better. When I've got my headphones on, the world can just go away. So yeah, even if I do get these fixed, and I seem to keep collecting headphones and earphones, so I might buy more earphones at some point, but hopefully I don't need to buy headphones for quite a while to come. But when I do, I don't think I'll be buying Sennheisers because my experience with the company hasn't been great. Still, hopefully I get these repaired and they get working again, because I was enjoying them until they stopped working. Okay, and with that I'm going to head off for now, so until next time, thank you very much for listening, and take very good care of yourselves.